Welcome to Pet Business Disruptors. I'm Clayton. I'm here today with Rachel Spencer, who is a master of many things, and I'm going to let her actually explain it because I've just spent the last 5 minutes trying to get all the names of what she does right. So,
well, thank you for the introduction, Clayton. And it's really, really good to be here. I'm Rachel, and I'm a pet business coach. Got a background in journalism. I've got a podcast called Your Pet Business Your Way, and I help people with visibility and getting themselves out there really and getting the pet businesses noticed. Yeah.
So obviously you're like probably one of the longest serving podcasters on the scene. You've been doing PR for years. Like, how did you sort of go from what you were doing before into the pet space?
Well, so basically what happened was I've been a journalist for since 1999, so that's quite a long time, isn't it? So 25 years, and I've worked on national newspapers, I worked for magazines, I freelanced for years, and then one of my friends had this dog basically called Daisy who was crazy, and my friend Jane had a baby, and Daisy had to go and live with somebody because she was too wild to be around this new baby, and she came to live with me. Now, I never thought I could have a dog, but I got Daisy, looked after her for what I thought would be a few weeks, and then you know where this is going, don't you? She ended up staying, and that was back in 2009, and then I'd had a family dog growing up and stuff, but I thought I could never have one of my own. So I got Daisy, and then I just became obsessed with her, and then got into looking at all the different places you can go to and all the different gear you can get for them and all the different things to help them with the recall because she was always running off. And so, I just kind of plonked myself into the dog world. And then the more I was kind of learning about being a dog owner, I was finding other people with really interesting stories that I'd write for the Nationals or for a women's magazine. And then I'd have these stories, but often it'd be edited down to 300, 400 words when it went in the paper. And I always knew that there was so much more that I wanted to say. So I started a pet blog, and that was just my own platform where I could write, as much as I wanted. And then when that happened, I had people who would get in touch to want to be on the blog. And then when they realised I was a journalist and I could help them get press coverage, they'd ask me about, getting in the local paper. And then it just kind of grew from there, really. And I cobbled together, and when I say cobbled together, I wrote it in a month, a book in 2018 called Publicity Tips for Pet Businesses. And it's got everything in there that you need if you want to get press coverage, but it's really bad. I did it in a month and chucked it on Amazon. And I thought, well, I'll leave that there. And then if people want any support, they can, there's a book there, it's all laid out for them. And then it just kind of snowballed from there, really. People got the book. I set up a Facebook group for people who bought the book. And then I was asked for just 1 hour coaching sessions to help people and things like that. And it ended up where, when I first started, I was doing 100% journalism, and then I'd do a little tiny bit of that on the side. And then the coaching, training, whatever you want to call it, kind of grew. And now I'd say that's probably 95% of what I do now. And that's happened over the course of 6 years. So it all kind of happened by accident, really, but I'm very pleased about it because journalism is really hard to make money. The budgets have been falling loads since online and stuff. And I really love what I do now. So, yeah.
One of my closest friends is actually has been a journalist since he left school, and he was a journalist for The Sun, and he lives in Ireland. He's for the Irish Examiner, but I remember his wages have gone down and down over the years, and I think he's actually moved from employed to freelance now, and it's been a tough industry. I mean, look, media has changed. I mean, when we were young, everyone would buy a newspaper every day, whereas I can't actually remember the last time I bought a newspaper, to be honest. So
there's been so much change, and I think with online, there's a huge demand for online. Local newspapers have really cut back on the staff. When I worked on a local newspaper in the early noughties, we had 4 photographers, 6 reporters, a news editor and a chief reporter, and now it's they've got 3 and 1 photographer, and it's really hard. But from a business point of view, there's a lot of opportunity there. And although people don't buy newspapers, they all the newspapers put stories online, and then they will share on social media, and you get that reach. So I do feel like there is still a place for getting press coverage, particularly if you get into big outlets like the Guardian or the Mail, because your reach is just huge, and the social reach as well. It's just the media's really changed over the past, definitely over the last 10 years significantly, but over the last 20 years, really, it's changed a lot.
And look, one thing I do talk about a lot is I think it's kind of can be looked at as being quite unfunky to be in a newspaper compared to TikTok. But actually, when you look at the people demographically that spend money in the pet industry, it is still predominantly the older demographic, so Gen Xers and Boomers. And they are the ones who are reading that sort of content rather than actually consuming things like TikTok and, YouTube Shorts and all this sort of stuff. So for businesses, if you're actually looking at like a demographic like angle and look and say, right, I want to actually target this particular type of person, it is still the right way to go.
Definitely. And I think there's a place for all of the different platforms, isn't there? Like, I've got a lady who I know from Newcastle. She does really well on TikTok because she's got these brilliant bow ties and they're sweary. So like really good swearing on a bow tie. So she'll go viral on TikTok, but she's been in newspapers as well. She's been in magazines and she does all kinds of different things, but she understands what's going to go off on TikTok, but she also knows what's going to work on Facebook. And if she's got a story, she'll come to me and I'll help her get some press coverage in, a local radio station or something. So there's so many different things you can do. And I think the kind of stuff that I try and support people with is just giving them that basic understanding of how to go and approach the press and do it yourself. And then if there's something that is going to work for the local paper, or they do want to do that, then they can, but they can also be doing what they want to do on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, or do you know what I mean? Like different things that you do in your business lend themselves to different ways of getting it out there, don't they?
I think also, look, one thing I've learned since I've been doing this podcast was actually how getting into newspapers and radio is actually accessible, because I'll be honest with you, my thought process was always you just got to pay a fortune and I'm not sure that's worth the money. That was always my thing. Like before is like, I mean, I could see the benefit of being in a newspaper or a trade magazine or whatever. But like, I don't really fancy paying, thousands of pounds like for what is like an outcome which I can't actually determine. Whereas it's actually easier than I thought, to be honest.
Definitely, especially with with budgets being cut and with online there's just such a demand for online content now as well. Like, I mean, the big news outlets have thousands of stories that they publish every day, and your trade publications as well. They are looking for content. There's different, they have different ways of doing that. Some of, there's some way you will pay, there's some way you won't. But I was listening to like Rory from Pord on the podcast on the way up here. And I know he's had some trade publication coverage, and that's going to be really good for him for getting in front of wholesalers and people who are in the industry who want to know about what he does. And I know obviously he does lots of other things because I see him everywhere. The shows and all the different events and everything. But there's, if you're thinking about don't like the word strategy, one, because I can't say it very well, but also because it gets overused, doesn't it? It's done to death. But if you are thinking, okay, I want to reach buyers or I want to reach people in the trade, then there's different ways to do it, isn't there? And sometimes press coverage it can get you some quite nice, easy wins, really.
Well, I got into when I first started this, I actually got into the PBW and the Pet Trade Extra. Like through Pixie. She actually done like a press release for me. Because I was like, I didn't think anyone would take it, but I was actually looking. I think Pet Trade Extra released their 100 most viewed ones. I think I was like number 80 or something.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah. I was like, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Definitely.
But it was, that was helpful because obviously, that like put me in front of exactly the right people. And it's just literally the price of, crafting a letter and sending it through to people, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. It is a lot more. There's brilliant PRs out there working in the pet space as well. But if you do want to do it yourself, it's really, I've got stuff on my website you can download for free, but it is really doable, and it is something that you can absolutely go and learn to do yourself and go and just give it a go.
Yeah. So is that like on your podcast? Because I know you talk to a lot of people in the sort of marketing space.
Yeah.
Do you talk? What sort of content do you talk about when you're talking about that sort of stuff? Do you talk about that sort of stuff a lot, or do you just try and spread it around as much as possible?
Yeah. So with my podcast, right? So I've been doing it it's coming up to 5 years now, and I was one of those people who did a podcast in lockdown, but I did plan to do it before lockdown happened. But it started off as publicity for pet businesses, which was like the first name of what I did. And it was all around getting press coverage. And then I would get people on the podcast who'd had press coverage. So I know you've got Doggate, it's just come out today, hasn't it? So like one of my first ever clients was Julie, who's the wife of Peter from Doggate, and she came to work with me right at the beginning. She'd already worked in PR, but she wanted to have a bit of a refresh because she was doing PR in the 80s, and then she'd set up a pet business and then wanted to come back and figure out how it was going to work for Doggate. So we worked together, and she was one of my first guests, I think. And we talked about like how she did it. So I do a lot of the how-to. So how do you find journalists' contact details? How do you write a press release? How do you find places to pitch to? How do you find outlets and that kind of thing? And then I would invite people on to talk about their experience and what worked and how they did it and what the impact was. So like Julie, she talked about one of the things that we figured out when we were working together was that it was used in caravans a lot. And there was loads of caravan magazines where, people were talking about caravan products, but they weren't really talking about dogs. But the Doggate worked really well in caravans. So she had like loads of coverage in caravan magazines. And then she had some good magazine coverage and national press as well. So I used to get people to come on and tell the stories. But then a few years ago, I realised that people were coming to me, they wanted to find out about press coverage, but sometimes it wasn't, I could show them how to write a press release or how to write a pitch and do the things that they needed to do. But a lot of the time it was like having the confidence to send that email or to feel okay talking about what they did, particularly people who are starting out or who've come from different careers. It was about they've got this new business and they know that the work they do is awesome. They've got a product that really makes a difference, or they've got a service that's really, making life better for people and their animals. But the thought of going on Facebook or going on Instagram or wherever and talking about what they do was terrifying because they worry about what people are going to think and will they be judged and are they going to get it right and that kind of thing. And I realised that I wanted to give more support around that and around the kind of, again, mindset. It is mindset, but I feel like, again, it's a word that's just used so much. It was around confidence and that kind of thing. So I went and trained as a coach, which I know sounds a bit fluffy, but it was around, like my specialism is, helping people with visibility, but I've got the coaching skills behind me. So when they are having those wobbles and they need support, I'm not just saying you need to post on LinkedIn 5 times a day or you've got to go and do this. It's like, okay, well, let's try and work out, why that's troubling you and what we can, how we can look at things differently. So so my podcast went from being about publicity and all being about press coverage to being more around, helping people see how brilliant they are and I'm feeling okay about shouting about it. Like I've worked with some really amazing people who have had like knocks along the way and that's really held them back. And I think sometimes just having somebody who really sees how brilliant you are and can help you see the stories that you've got in your business and help you, package them up and put that out there. That's what I'm all about now. So it's coaching and visibility. My specialism is visibility, but it's coaching as well. And then on my podcast, I know we chatted about this on the phone, didn't we? But I'm changing things up a little bit. It has been more around, feeling okay about what you do, navigating through the bumps in the road and the highs and lows and all that. And I'm having a bit of a break with the podcast, but I'm bringing it back in a different form. And it's going to be more around storytelling and people talking about, my season that's coming up is going to be about Don't Tell Me I Can't. And it's going to be where people have, proved the doubters wrong, that kind of thing, or done something really different that people didn't think would work. And just sharing brilliant stories, which I'm dead excited about with my journalism background, but also, getting these great stories out there.
I think it's interesting what you said in terms of like actually like talking to people and getting them to actually share their stories, because like I suffered for a long time with imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like where you actually, like I've done a lot. I mean, if you listen to me, I've probably done a lot compared to most people. But it was actually then saying, should I shout about it? Do I feel like I'm good enough to actually stand out in front of people and actually go, you know what, actually, what I've done is pretty interesting. I've done some pretty cool stuff. And like part of me is always like, no, like you should shut up and just do, because there's part of me is like when I finished wholesaling, it was like there was part of me that just wanted to just go and get a job as a van driver, if I'm honest, because I was like, the idea of like going in front of all these people and you'd stand in front of these boards of people who were talking about doing different roles, and you're like, I just kind of felt weird about it, to be honest. And shouting out about what you are and what you can do just always feels really like I know, unmodest. I'm quite modest generally, and I felt like actually shouting about it was actually kind of anathema to how I am as a person. So actually getting people to do it organically is nice.
Definitely. And I think so it's interesting you saying about imposter syndrome, because I listen to you and this is a conversation I have so often. It's like, you don't see what I see. Like, I've listened to your podcast and I think that you give so much. And I know we were chatting before we started recording, weren't we? And I was basically saying I was having a bit of an imposter syndrome moment here because I feel like not an outsider as such. But I know I give support, but I'm not entrenched in the industry like you. And I don't have that knowledge. And I was thinking, oh my God, I'm going on this podcast. And I'm a bit nervous, I'll be honest, because you have so much knowledge. But I think you capture it really well in this podcast, that you're here, you've got this knowledge and you want to share it because you want to help people. And you've done this podcast and, we're here in the studio and it's awesome. And you're going all in on it, aren't you? But you're doing it because you want to help people.
Yeah.
And I think like when you have it, if you are having, and I don't imagine that you do have like these wobbles or anything, but if you were having, an imposter syndrome moment where you're thinking, you feel, you know what I mean? Like, you've done it with the intention that you really want to help people, and you're sharing, all you're doing is sharing your experience. And that's mega for people who are new to the industry, like, because you've been doing this for, 30 odd years, haven't you?
Yeah.
You're so entrenched and you've got so much experience that people just don't even know. And just by you talking about what you do, things that you just assume that everybody knows, they don't. And they're getting real value from what you're doing. So
I definitely have wobbles.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely have. I mean, I think like maybe I come across very confident, and I think like that's part of my salesman mentality.
Yeah.
Is like, if you're a good salesperson, you're always sort of clicking with confidence all the time. But actually, like, I massively have wobbles.
Yeah.
And like massively like suffer from self-doubt occasionally. It's just doing the thing is the thing that actually gets me through it, to be honest. Because I think it is like fairly unnatural to sort of put yourself and say, look, I know I've been doing this for like my whole life. Mm-hmm. I know a hell of a lot about what I'm talking about, but I don't think about the stuff I know. I think about the stuff I don't know all the time. So I'm always like, well, I don't know as much about fish as I should. My knowledge on cat is nowhere near as good as my knowledge on dog, wild bird, reptile.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where my mind goes. So if I'm sitting in front of talking to somebody about cats, then there's going to be stuff that I don't know as well, because cat isn't as big in the pet food industry, like pet specialist, as, let's say, other animals. And so I just didn't have the drive to learn as much about cat as I did about the things which were making the company more money, So, like it's funny because like I think you can like look at other people a lot and say, well, this guy's got it together, or this person's got it together. But actually, like that's, some people are like that, but like I think there's a lot more people who actually do have like serious wobbles, like in terms of like their belief systems.
So what you said there about the kind of, what you know, but you want to, do you know what I mean? You want to learn, and that's a good position to be in, isn't it? You're not kind of sitting here saying I'm the expert and I know everything. It's like you've got that willingness to learn and to keep learning about cats or reptiles or insects, or you know what I mean? Like you've got that curiosity, which is a good thing, I think. I think that's what people find refreshing, that you want to learn and you're not kind of saying I know everything. Like I work with lots of people who've got dog businesses, and I've got a few people with cats and horses, and it's like I really want to know about the cats and the horses as well. It's that
I think when you think you know it all, that's when you're doomed.
Yeah.
Because even if, let's say, in theory, I knew everything about everything, and I said, well, I'm done, I know everything. The reality is that in 5 years' time, the industry's completely morphed. And things have changed enormously. I mean, if you think where we are now in just coming into 2025 compared to where we were in 2020, compared to where we were in 2015, and then you keep spinning that back. And when you've been doing it since the 90s, like I have, like I can think back to the 90s, and like it was just a completely different landscape. Like stores were different, like retail was different. There was no online at that time. Pets at home were at that time, they were pet smart. Yeah. In this country, and they were disorganized, And so the whole, supermarkets were nowhere near as good. The discounters hadn't got hold of pet yet. It was a completely different landscape. And I think even when you think you know it all, like if that's possible, that to think that and not move on, keep learning is a guaranteed like route to failure.
Definitely. I mean, just with life as well. Like, if you think about our phones and stuff, when we had, we're of similar age, aren't we? Like, we grew up without mobile phones and social media. And, when I worked on local papers, if you wanted to get in front of, everyone in Warrington or wherever it is that you lived, you took out an advert or you got some press coverage. Whereas now you've got all these different things that you can do and just always moving, aren't we? Like the changes that have happened in our working lifetime have just been insane, haven't they?
Yeah, mad. Mad, definitely. It's like even, things like the internet. Well, I remember when I converted our business over from writing manual invoices to using a computer.
Yeah, it's mad,
that's how old I am. Yeah. It's sort of like we used to, everything was done by hand, and then we bought this computer, and it was like a 1 gigabyte hard drive computer, and it was like £1,000 it was for this computer, and it was just like, oh my God, we can actually just print stuff off, and this saves us tons of time, because before that everything was like written on double copies, and like you save one side and send the other out and that sort of stuff. And it's incredible how the world's changed.
Definitely. When I used to work on I used to work at the News of the World years ago, like 2004, and we used to have this thing where we didn't have I don't think I had a laptop then because I couldn't afford it. It was really skint. So we used to do this thing where we'd go out and interview somebody, and then you'd write it in your notepad and then write it up, and then you'd ring up like these people called PA copy takers, and you'd read your copy down the phone to them, and they'd then send it off to the office. Yeah. And like there was no smartphones or anything, we just had like a Nokia 3310 or something like that. It's just mad, isn't it? Like how things have changed. Yeah,
no, definitely. I remember when we got vehicle trackers in actually on our vans, like that revolutionized our business. We got probably extra 30% more work done as a result of vehicle trackers, because we soon realized we had certain drivers who were going off doing private jobs and they should be delivering. And it's just all these things now which you think are just like completely standard, like trackers on vans. I remember when we first put ours in, people were like, why would you want a tracker on your van?
Yeah, it would be. But they were outraged, weren't they?
Yeah, oh man, it was outraged. Oh, it was outrageous. People, I feel like you're spying on me all the time.
Yeah.
sort of stuff. And it's like, whereas now it's just like completely accepted and normal, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. It's when I worked on newspapers, it was before we had like camera phones. But we used to get sent on jobs, and they were like, I don't care it's Saturday night. I don't care it's Saturday night. You've got to be there until 6 o'clock. And obviously, I was in my 20s then. I wanted to go out and have fun and stuff. I didn't want to be in I lived in Warrington. Didn't want to be in Newcastle sitting on a doorstep until 6 o'clock. So you'd go home, wouldn't you? Or slope off. Whereas now they'd be like, no, we want a picture of the door at 6 o'clock with the time stamp, and you're not going anywhere. And they'll probably be tracked as well. So yeah, I got out of being a staff reporter just at the right time, I think.
So you do like a pet visibility group, don't you?
Yes.
So tell us more about that, because obviously I think this is something which people really need to understand more about, and you're not expensive either. The group is quite a cheap entrance into it.
Yeah, I try and keep it affordable, so thank you for mentioning it as well. I've got the podcast and I've got a newsletter, and they're obviously free, and you can go and listen and figure out whether I'm all right and whether I'm the kind of person you'd like to work with. But yeah, I've got a group called Pets Get Visible. And the idea is, I grew up in the 80s, so a bit of Olivia Newton-John in there. But yeah, the idea is that it gives you everything that you need to put yourself out there. So I have, we basically have a workshop every month, which is talking about things like email marketing, getting press coverage. I did one on using AI just before Christmas, all kinds of different things that people say that they need when it comes to putting themselves out there. Have a coaching call every month where you can kind of come along and get your questions answered, or talk about anything that you want to with me and the other people in the group. And it's not one of those where you basically get support from everybody in the group, because quite often, if a dog trainer comes along and they want to know about whether they should change the class numbers, somebody else who's a dog trainer is going to know much more than I am. I'm just there to kind of provide that environment, basically. So we do that. Got loads of different resources on writing press releases and pictures and articles and blogs and that kind of thing. which you can go and look at. And then I also do these co-working sessions, which sound really weird, right? But you basically come on Zoom and we sit there for an hour and get our work done. So we're all kind of there on Zoom with this on the screen, and you just kind of get your work done and then go. And that's just having that time to do your marketing or do your social media and that kind of thing. And then there's a Facebook group as well. So people go in and, share what they're working on. If they've got a press release and they want some feedback on it, then they can pop it up in there and I'll give feedback and that kind of thing. And the idea is it's just giving you that support and that feeling that you're not doing it on your own, and that kind of, sense of belonging and that kind of thing. That's what people get from it. And it's like 30 quid a month. So it's really affordable and accessible. And the key thing was, like, when I was freelancing, and when I decided I wanted to try and work online and work with small businesses, I just totally didn't have a clue what I did or what to do. So I joined a membership and I'd go to these Zoom calls. And I remember when I first used to go to these calls and you'd have to introduce yourself and stuff, I'd literally be physically shaking. I was really nervous. But what I learned was it was really, you can have an online community where you can get the support that you need, and that there are other people out there who are like you and who worry about the same things and that kind of thing. So that's why I created it, really. And I love it. It's, it's a really lovely group, and there's lots of collaboration that goes on in there and that kind of thing. And it's great. I've had it for a couple of years now. And I really love going to the calls, having the people who I get to work with, and seeing the stuff that they do. It's just amazing.
Is it all online, or do you do physical meetups as well?
Wow. So it is all online, but I do physical meetups. So like, I always have a bit of a get together at Crufts. Had a few things that went on personally last year, which meant that I didn't had to take a break there was a few reasons. But anyway, I do normally have a meetup at Crufts, and then there's another event in February in Birmingham called Small Business Sunday with Theo Pathetis, who used to be on Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
Loads of people who've got pet businesses have won it, and that's a bit of a get together there as well. And then I've done one in-person event. I did one at the back end of last year, back end of this year even, which was really, really, really lovely just to be with people instead of being on Zoom. And then I'm hoping I've got another one in February, but they're like really small retreats. I don't do any more than 8 people there. And that's just where you've got a bit of time to work on your business rather than in it, and get away and go and see people in real life.
Yeah, it's funny because I really like in-person meetups. I'm very an in-person thing, and it is nice to actually have that real world thing with a Zoom group, because I did my master's online during COVID, and I think like just actually being able like to meet people as part of it is so important, isn't it? Because as much as you might see people on Zoom, you don't actually, it's very hard to gain friendships, isn't it? When you're actually, whereas just meeting them once is enough, because then you've seen them on Zoom a number of times. But if you can actually get people like actually in the same room, then you can actually get real collaborations going and that sort of stuff, can't you?
Oh, definitely. It makes a massive difference, doesn't it? Like, I love getting together for like the big SBS event. We normally go and have a big meal out and stuff. Peter's been to it a few times from Doggate.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, like if I go to Crufts or if I go to Dogfest or any of the shows, I will just try and get around and see as many people as I can in person. But yeah, it is really good to have people in a room together and just have those connections and stuff. And yeah, it's just, I always just find it really exciting, particularly after lockdown. I went to the PIF Awards. I think it would have been 2021. I didn't really know anyone there.
Yeah.
I knew a few people, but just being in a room with people again, it was just brilliant.
Nah. The whole black tie thing freaks me out. As you can tell, I'm not really a black tie sort of person, to be honest.
No, me neither. But yeah, I did manage to scrub myself up a little bit for a night out. But yeah, it was really good.
No one will recognise me if I scrub myself up. But yeah, it's because that's the thing with, like, obviously when it comes to coaching, I think like a lot of people hear the word coach and it freaks them out a little bit, because I mean you hear people being, oh, I'm a life coach, or I'm a coach, I'll make you X amount of money, and and like I know you're not like that, but it's like, just tell me like how your coaching works, because obviously like you hear a lot of like coaches are quite extreme in terms of how they sort of put themselves across.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So I've had coaching over the years, and lots of different, I wouldn't say lots of different types, but I've bought into programs, and I've spent a lot of money on things that weren't right for me. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to train as a coach is I am a bit of a girl guide with things, in that I knew that I was calling myself a coach because I was helping people with publicity, but I didn't have the training to actually, I wasn't a qualified coach, and I wanted to have that. So that's why I went away and did it. But yeah, as far as my coaching goes, it's very, I don't promise, you're going to have a 6-figure business or 10 grand months or anything like that. And I don't tell you or tell people that they have to do anything specific. It's about figuring out like what's going to work for them. So, and a lot of the time that's about talking to people, about listening to them, and not me saying to them, this is what you have to do. So with what I do, it's kind of a mix of coaching and mentoring, where people will come to me because they want, they like my approach and they don't want to be told what to do, or they want to get press coverage. So like, if I use like one of my clients, Sarah, from like My Anxious Dog as an example. So I've worked with her for a few years. She was one of the people who I did she was like one of my guinea pigs when I was doing my training. And with her, like it was a lot around really believing in what she was doing. She'd had quite a few setbacks. Her husband had this accident, he'd not been very well, and she'd started a business, and she'd had a few people who questioned what she was doing. She was making yellow space awareness products for dogs and also for their owners, and people were saying, well, nobody knows what it means. And she was like, well, I'm really determined to get this out there. I want people to know what a dog in yellow means. So with Sarah, it was about really identifying what story she had to put out there and getting her some press coverage. That worked really well. But it was also about building up her confidence and helping her articulate what she wanted to get out there and who to connect with and what the messages were. And she works with a lot of other people. She's got copywriters, she's got graphic designers, she's got lots of people around her now who support her. But that initial work was about really, like what I was saying before, you don't see what I see, and seeing that actually she's really making a difference, and finding a way for her to tell stories and put herself out there that wasn't just about my yellow products are brilliant, or, I'm this, that, and the other, because she's not, she's very humble. She's really, really lovely. It was about like sharing stories around the impact that she was having, and Bella, her Cocker Spaniel, her story and how she inspired her. We told, what happened with Matt and his accident where he lost his arm. And there was all these stories around her business that she did feel okay sharing. And it was about finding them and then giving her the confidence to put that out there. And go and do, brave things like, sending off emails or approaching editors and having, going and talking to people at events. And now she stands on stages and talks about what she does, and seeing stuff like that is amazing. And yeah, that's just what I really love about the skills that I've got now with the coaching, rather than me just saying, you're amazing, you need to tell people. It's like, actually, come on, let's really help build these people up so they can see it, and then they can go and do that stuff. And yeah, I love it.
Because this thing, I think it's like, it's hard to know where to start, isn't it? I think, like, so for me, obviously, I'd never done anything like even vaguely media-y before. And like, just knowing where to start is like quite a big thing, because you've always just done your job. You've always just, you might be good at what you're doing, whatever, but if you're not screaming about it, nobody knows about it. The only way people would kind of know anything about me was just from my products. Like, people would contact me because they'd seen my products in different places, but I'd never put myself in a video. I'd never put myself like out there as a human being. And so actually, like, when you decide to start, it's like, where do you start? Yeah. And like, where do you actually go from there, because it kind of, like, what would you, for me, it was like, what would I even tell people about me? Like, what would I even, like, if I went to, a newspaper and wanted to get something out about what I'm doing, it's like, that would feel weird. It's like, I feel like I'd have to pay for an advert, and again, that's not a write-up or anything like that. So it's great that you're actually out there pushing that sort of thing out,
Oh, thank you. But it's like you said at the beginning with your press release, just the fact that you've got this podcast that's newsworthy for the industry. So it's just identifying that, isn't it? And this podcast is obviously here to support people who want to know more. So that is definitely newsworthy for the trade. And like, you'll have loads of stories. everyone I talk to says, "Oh, I don't really think I've got anything to say." There's always stuff there. I've got a dog friend. Sorry, go on.
I've got loads of stories. Most of them I just couldn't put them out in the public domain, to be honest.
Yeah.
You don't work. I don't think you work in a pet food warehouse for 20 odd years without some like wacky stuff happening, because people in the pet industry are pretty wacky people generally. And but yeah, I've probably got more stories than I care to divulge, to be honest.
Definitely, but no, I've just been I've been chatting to another lady. She's got a business called The Pet Carpenter, and her background's marketing. She's got these beautiful products, and there's story around. It's a family business. It started in lockdown, but the other thing that's really interesting, she's just been sharing it on like Instagram and on social media, is the data that she gets from the people who are interested in her products about things like dog names and like where the dogs sleep and things like that. So we were chatting about that on a call, and she's shared a lot of it on social media about like what the most popular dog names have been this year, and because she's getting all of this in her system from the people who are inquiring and seeing trends and that kind of thing. So there's so many different things that will happen around your business as well that can be that can turn into something newsworthy. Like, with the anxious dog lady, it's like more people are seeing what a dog in yellow means, and that awareness that in itself could be newsworthy. So there's lots of creative ways that you can talk about what you do without feeling like it's all about you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I really like her products, by the way. The dog carpenter, I really like them.
They're amazing, aren't they?
Brilliant. Unbelievable.
I'm moving house at the moment. I'm in the process of, and I've got this holiday cottage, so I'm having a bit of work done there, but I can't wait to get my order in. I'm dead excited about having one of these dog carpenter things. I just need to know the dimensions and the colours and stuff, but I can't tell you how excited I am.
Tell me about your holiday cottage, because I know you got to the PIF Awards finals with your cottage, which is quite an achievement, right?
I was well chuffed with that, and there was the people who were in the finals were incredible, so I was so chuffed to be on the list. But yeah, I decided a few years ago, so I loved going, don't we all, love going on holiday with my dog, and I go to this place called Robin Hood's Bay, which is this like tiny little village in Yorkshire, and it's like really oldie worldy, and it's really nice. So we used to go there, we started going there once a year, and then it was twice and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year. And at the time I was with my ex-boyfriend Tommy, and we'd bought a house in Newcastle, and I was renting my old house out that I lived in Warrington. And I was just chatting, basically like, my dad died years ago, and he did me and him did all the kind of DIY and all the stuff on my old house. And there was like this quite a big emotional attachment to it. And I never thought I would sell it. But I remember talking to my mum one day, and she was like, well, you go to Robin Hood's Bay all the time. Why don't you could sell your house and go and buy somewhere there. And I was like, okay, well, I feel all right, because I kind of, not that I needed a permission as such, but it just felt like it felt right. So I sold my old house, bought a holiday cottage for Patch, the dog, my little terrier. And then it's obviously a business. It needs to make money. But basically what I wanted it to be was for it to be everything that I wanted when I went on holiday. So for the dog to be able to go in the bed, for them to have everything that they needed there. So all the things that I always forget when I go on holiday would be there. And for it to be in a place where they can, just relax, go on the furniture, have a nice time, have treats. And then we're like a minute's walk from the beach. It's in a really nice place with near loads of different pubs and restaurants and stuff. And just for it to be everything that you want for your dog. And it's one of those where I thought, when I was kind of writing down and getting all my ideas together about what I wanted to be in there, I'd, put the offer in, it'd been accepted. I was waiting to get the keys and stuff. And a lot of the things I was writing down and saying I was going to do, people were like, that's really over the top. You shouldn't do that. And I was just like, no, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I'm just going to go for it and make it dog bonkers, basically. And it is. And it's done really well, and people have loved it. I'd say 95% of the people who come have got a dog, which is great. That's what it's all about. And it's all about kind of getting there, and for you to feel like your dog is the centre of this holiday. And I know that it's different to, there are loads of dog-friendly holiday companies out there. The area where I am, there aren't as many dog bonkers people as me. And I just want it to be a place where you can go with your dog and really relax and enjoy it. And for your dog to feel special. So
what over the top stuff?
So, we've got, so when they come in, they have like a welcome pack. So there's this brand called the K9 Menu. They make these really good dog treats that go in pubs and stuff. So they have like a dog welcome pack. So it's got treats, it's got like a long-lasting chew, poo bags, and then have like these nautical... No, I mean, you've asked me, so I've got to share it. Have these like nautical themed bow ties and bandanas and like flowers that go on the collars. And then they have got leads, collars, a lead station where you can hang all your bags and stuff like that. We've got a toy box with balls and toys and tug toys and all that kind of thing in. Bowls, obviously. Beds, waterproof dog beds with like washable covers. Got like this thing called a borrow box where if you've forgotten your lead or I've got like yellow, I've got dogs in yellow stuff in there. Got like barking bags stuff in there. Long lines, shampoo or dot pet shampoo I've got in there. So no zoomies. Oh yeah, and then they have a dressing gown as well. Like they've got dog robes. So when they've been on the beach, they've got the dressing gown to put on when they get back. And I get these pictures from people and like the dogs are on the sofas and on the floor and it's just basically like turning it upside down and the dog is the centre of the holiday rather than you.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it.
I love that. Yeah, to be honest, the more over the top, the better, I think. Yeah. I think if you're going to do it, I think going way over the top is better. I mean, anyone who said to you, don't go, that's too over the top, don't listen to them.
No.
More over the top is what I'd go with because you want to stand out.
Yeah.
You know, because there's like, well, this is dog friendly, as in you can bring it.
Yeah.
That's dog. Okay, fair enough. But you're actually going to that extra length. You've got dog shampoo in the bathroom. You've got, little robes and all this. And like, look, the more you can do, like, the better. To be honest, I'm all for that. To be honest, it's. Do you have problems with things like chewing though?
Do you know what? No, they've honestly like they are as good as gold, and people clean up afterwards. I honestly think, right, if you've got a dog-friendly business and you go all in with the dogs, the people who've got dogs and they get there and they see how much effort you've made, they really appreciate it. Like, and they hoover up after themselves. I go in so it's relatively new business. So if I'm going there myself, I'll do the cleaning, I'll do the turnaround and stuff because I'm being frugal and trying to save money. But yeah, like I'll go in there after the dogs have left, and sometimes you won't even know that there's been a dog there. They've hoovered, they've cleaned everything. Honestly, I don't want to tempt fate here, but so far they've been good as gold. They've been really, really good.
Yeah.
I think there's been like one dog that's weed on the floor, but that happens, doesn't it? So
no, like yeah, for sure. For sure.
But yeah, they're really good. People really appreciate it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that, to be honest. And I mean, how do you find marketing it? Like, how do you get your bookings?
I love it, honestly, right? So I've got a cottage company. So basically where it is, it's in the middle of nowhere. And it's the kind of place where if I needed a plumber to be there, first of all, I'm like 3 hours away. And no, I don't know any plumbers in the village and they don't know me. So I've got a brilliant cottage company who do the turnarounds, do the cleaning and all that stuff. And they've got a website, so I get bookings from there. But the other thing that I've done is I've used all the stuff that I kind of show other people to do, like getting press coverage and social media, I try all the things that I've done that help other people to do on my own business, and it's done really well. So like we were really lucky. We got into the Guardian's top 20 dog-friendly holiday cottages.
Oh, really?
And we were right at the top because we had really good photography. So they put us at the top of that list. So that was amazing. That got I think we got 12 bookings in a weekend. And that brings in, I mean, I had somebody book in just before Christmas and he found us via that article, which was July 2023. So that's been really good. Had a lot of press coverage, but the other thing I've done is I've worked with small influencers or micro influencers, people who I've known who've gone out and reviewed it. And that's been really good. They've been really loyal. There's one lady called Kate. She runs this dog-friendly website called Dotty Four Paws, and she shares on social media loads. Like she wrote a blog, and then she shares it over and over again. And then there's a few other influencers who I've worked with who are just really supportive. They've got big audiences on Instagram or whatever platform. I always make sure that I get a blog post for it if I'm giving away a free stay, because I think a reel or a story, it's just it's too fleeting. Yeah. But if I can say, oh, you've got a Cocker Spaniel, have a read about how Sal got on with her Cocker Spaniels, or you've got a terrier, this is what Kate said, that works really well. So I'm just trying different things really, but I love doing social media for it myself, and I've also got a community anyway from a podcast and stuff of people who've got dogs and who like going on holiday. So I get bookings via my own network. So doing all of the just doing all the things really that I show other people to do, but also using your own network and, talking to your mates about it. And like wherever I go, I've always got cards and stuff. So it's all quite organic.
Yeah.
Really.
So you haven't had to go on Airbnb or
No.
like booking.com or any of the like big scalpers that are out
No,
there?
I didn't want to go. Like I wanted to stick with the local company anyway, because we booked with them and I knew that they'd really look after us. Like, for example, like over Christmas, the lock on the door broke, right? So if I'd have had to deal with that or I was on Airbnb, I'd be screwed. This was on Christmas Eve and we had somebody the bloke in the couple was in the cottage and the woman in the couple was outside trying to get in, and the spring in the lock broke. So he's trapped in the cottage and she's outside. Nightmare. If I'd have had to sort that out, it would have just been, well, it would have taken hours and it would have been a nightmare. Whereas the cottage company, they're there in the village and it was done, sorted in 20 minutes. So yeah, I know Airbnb is great and everything and I use it loads, but I think with me being so far away, I wanted to have that on hand. Help.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. No, it's cool because obviously it's sort of like where you're showing people how to get the publicity and that sort of stuff. Actually doing it for yourself then becomes a bit weird again, right?
Yeah, it's a bit scary. Like, but it's good. It's great when it works, especially like because I do stuff like when I did a press release about getting the Small Business Sunday Award. So I went and did I went and kind of wrote it up on video and then posted it in my group. And it was like, look over my shoulder. This is what I've done. This is a press release. This is what I've said. And, you can go and do it for your award win as well. I'm going to go and send it now and hopefully it's going to get picked up. And it's like, what if it doesn't? Like, I'm supposed to be showing people what to do here. So you are it is, I have got to walk the walk and it is a bit like, what if it doesn't get picked up? But then sometimes things don't get picked up and that's just how it is.
Yeah. But I also think just mentally, for me, it's like you put somebody else's business in front of me.
Yeah.
It's way easier for me to identify where their pain points are, what they need to do to move things. Whereas when I'm deeply entrenched doing something, it's much harder. And so I think like how I think is for you is when you're putting yourself out there and doing all that press coverage, there's something it's so much harder to sell yourself than it is to help somebody else sell them. So when people come to you and they want to get the press coverage for you, you can go, well, it's like you said, I can see stuff about you, which I can't see about myself. So you can look at their bit what they're doing and go, yeah, you should put this out and it will get picked up because it's great. Whereas you'd look at your own thing and you're like, oh, do you know what I mean? Yeah,
it's like, can I really say that? Or you don't see the things that actually people really like. I think that's what I think one of the good things about being in communities and having chats like this and listening to stuff like this, it helps you identify what you're I listen to other people on podcasts and you get loads of ideas from podcasts, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you'll hear somebody else talk about something, you'll be like, oh, actually that kind of works a bit for me. And I think that's what works really well with podcasts. But yeah, you're right. Seeing stuff for yourself, it's really hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's harder to say. For me personally, it's give me a product, I can sell it. Give me a concept, I can sell it myself. It's I feel weird about it, to be honest. It's put me in front of a group of people and tell me to sell myself. I struggle because just naturally, I think you suddenly then start like I said, you overanalyze. You think about what you don't know rather than what you do know, if you know what I mean. So.
Yeah. I find with the cottage, I can say anything, do anything. I don't care. I put stuff on social media. I never worry about what I'm saying or think, oh, what are people going to judge me? Because it's removed. It is mine, but it's removed from me, and it's I feel all right about it. Whereas when I'm doing stuff for my coaching business and it's more about me, I worry about it, take it personally. I think, what if people are going to? I worry about what people are going to think or say. Whereas with the cottage, I'll be like, well, if people don't want to go to my really dog-friendly cottage, I don't care. That's it. You know what I mean? They're missing out. Whereas when it's me personally, I find it a lot harder.
Yeah, I think. It's and also it's the same. When you're as a salesperson, a lot of the time you're even though people buy from people and they're really buying you, when they don't buy, you can kind of put it down to that product doesn't fit them rather than actually taking it as a personal hit, to be honest. But yeah, no, I agree. So what have you got lined up for the future, Rachel?
Well, so I've just brought out a planner, which is something I've wanted to do for years. And I literally, it was a bit of a shambles, I'll be honest. I am a little bit last minute Louise, and I've wanted to do this planner for years, but I've decided I was going to do it in like September. And then I finally got Kate Hendry, who I know you've met Kate, haven't you? I got her she agreed to design it for me because I can't do design. And we worked on it in November, and then it was printed, and then the first print run didn't work out, and then another one didn't work, and then the third print run finally got them in my house on I think it was like the 19th of December. But I've got this planner. I'll give you a copy when we finish. But the idea is that it's got you can plan your social media or whatever content you've got going on in your business. So it gives you that. It's a diary, so you can say, oh, I've got Crufts in March, or I've got Edition Dog in July, and you can forward plan. And then it's also got like these mindset. They're basically like guided journaling exercises where there's 12 of them. So if you're having like a bit of an imposter syndrome moment, there's one there that can help you through that. Or if you're procrastinating, there's a bit of an exercise for that. Or if like you've got something new and you know that you really need to be telling people about it, but you feel like you're holding back and you're worried about what people are going to think, there's a bit of an exercise for that. And yeah, it's got these brilliant illustrations in it, and it's all packaged up into like a diary, and I love it. It's brilliant. Kate's done an amazing job on it. So yeah, I've just launched that, and it's been landing on doormats over the last couple of weeks, and that's been brilliant. So that's my thing for the beginning of the year. And I want to do more in-person stuff really. I've got my membership, and I love doing that. It's great being online, but I definitely want to do more in person. So yeah, some more like small retreats and events, I think is what I'm looking forward to in 2025, and seeing how people get on with the planner really. And I really hope it's going to help people when they're having those moments where they just need that bit of support. And like, obviously it's great to be there in person for somebody, but it's kind of the next best thing, and it's something very different. Something that, it's the stuff that I've put in there is what I've seen people need from working with my clients in the membership and one-to-one and stuff. And I'm excited about it. It's a bit bonkers, but
no. It was a 2025 planner, is it?
It's undated, so you can use it any year. It's got like awareness days that don't move. So like some of them are like last Thursday of January, or do you know what I mean? They don't move, and the exercises are, they're for whenever. But I didn't date it because I wasn't quite sure how it would land. But yeah, it is for 2025, but it's
if you got it in June,
if you got it in June, it's not going to be the end of the world.
No, it
can still works.
It still works for 2022. How much is it?
So it's 30 quid.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to. Obviously, it is quite expensive to create a planner. I learned, so I want it to be affordable, but. But to cover my costs as well. I covered my costs like last week, and it was like, yes, I've been working on this thing for 8 weeks really, and it's stuff that's been going around in my head for years. And obviously you've got the print costs, and then working with Kate, she's just done such a great job. And then I've realised I've literally been like working 14-hour days for 8 weeks or something, and then I've made like £4.
Yeah, don't price your hourly wage into it.
Oh no, I'm not I've not factored in my time, otherwise I'd still be But it's been worth it. I love it. I'm really chuffed with how it's turned out.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, so just if people want to get a hold of you, Rachel, what's the best way to do it? If they want to buy the planner, if they want to join your group, if they want to do the coaching, what's the best routes to get a hold of you?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm easy to find. I'm Rachel Spencer UK on all social media platforms, and my website is rachelspencer.co.uk, and you'll find all the stuff, how to get the planner and everything else that you might need on there. So yeah, just come and find me on social media. I'm very... Well, yeah, I like chatting to people, as you will have hopefully heard if you've made it this far.
Awesome. Thanks a million.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.